Hey guys, it's Chloe, and today I'm doing a book talk for Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. So Stars Above was actually the Once Upon a Read-Along Book of the Month for February. I went through some sort of slump between then and now, so I'm finally getting around to doing my book talk. The good thing is I took a lot of notes on it. I'm gonna start with the obvious things. You guys know I'm in love with Marissa Meyer. She is like my spirit animal. That's how amazing her series is. I love the Lunar Chronicles. I'm so obsessed with it. It's started my love for fairy tale retellings, and it's just such a great series. Stars Above kind of made it feel like the series is finally over, even though we still have 2 graphic novels and a coloring book coming out for this series. So while it feels like this series is over, it's really not. It's still going on, but it's like, normally when a series is still going on, I don't feel too good about it, but I feel great about the Lunar Chronicles. It's such a great series and a really unique take on fairy tales, and it's just so good. The book, I overall gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. How could I not? I'm going to be talking about each individual story in this book of short stories. And there are a total of 9 short stories in this book. Some of them were previously released, and others this is the first time they are ever being released. And just so you guys know, this book talk is going to be filled with spoilers for the Lunar Chronicles series. So if you guys have not read this series or are not at a certain point in the series, please come back and watch this video later so you guys aren't spoiled. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first short story, which is called The Keeper. This short story is about Michelle Benoit, and for those of you who don't know, she is Scarlett's grandmother. And this is the story of how she came to take care of Scarlett, and how she also came to be the, I guess, the keeper of Cinder before Cinder became a cyborg. I thought it was really interesting and really sad to be reading about Michelle since she passed away at the end of Scarlet, and it was very refreshing to get some information about her and how she came to take care of Scarlet, and it turns out Scarlet actually ran away and came to her. And we were also introduced to characters not previously seen in books but were previously mentioned, such as Scarlet's paternal grandfather. We also came to learn how Cinder got her name, Cinder, which was actually Michelle. She named Cinder, and I don't remember the exact reason why they named her Cinder. I think it was because she's like being reborn from the ashes, but it was really interesting and cool to just read about her and how she put a little piece of her into Cinder. The second short story is Glitches, and this was definitely not what I thought it was. I thought this entire story was about Eco. I thought it was all about her, and it turns out she is not in it at all until like the last page of this short story. It turns out this short story is centered around Cinder and when she first came to live with Adri, Pearl, Peony, and Garen. Same thing with Garen as it was with Michelle. It's very sad and still amazing to be reading about him since he passed away before the series even started. That was really interesting. And one thing that I noticed throughout reading this short story in particular is that I specifically had these feelings thinking that Adri possibly was warming up to Cinder at first, and I was wondering, well, how did she become so cold towards Cinder in the actual main series? But as it turns out, she never liked Cinder to begin with, because there's a scene in this short story where Adri is saying how happy the family is to have her, and Cinder notices the little orange light that pops up in the corner of her vision, which, as we know from the main series, is her lie detector. So at first she didn't know what it meant, and throughout the story she didn't know what it meant, but it was really interesting to see Cinder learning about her different abilities as a cyborg. It's also very sad at the end of this short story to find out that Garen had contracted the sickness, lutemosis, and he was being taken away, and how Adri, Peony, and Pearl were reacting, as well as how Cinder was feeling. And that's right when Iko came in at the very end. I don't remember how this came about. I believe she thought Cinder was wondering why she didn't feel more grief than she was feeling, and Iko thought maybe it was because she had a glitch. The third short story is The Queen's Army, and I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. I did not enjoy this short story at all because I knew going into it that it was about Wolf and about being in the Queen's Army, and Wolf is not my favorite character, and I really don't like reading about him. But we did get a look about when he was taken to be a part of the Queen's Army and how he was separated from his family, and that was really interesting. Everything is interesting with this book because a lot of it we're seeing is the past. It's very strange after reading the main series and maybe hearing about these things, or maybe meeting characters later on and then seeing them in the past and how that whole scenario is. The fourth story is Carswell Thorne's Guide to Being Lucky, which I really had mixed feelings about this story as well. I had higher hopes for this story. And it's not that I didn't like it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to. I also wasn't expecting this to be about Thor when he was like in high school. I was expecting this to be him before he was arrested, and I think him being in high school, while it's cool to see him younger, it wasn't really my cup of tea, not really how I was feeling, and I really wish this story had been about him before he was arrested. The fifth story is After Sunshine Passes By, and this is Cress's story, and I was very, very interested in this story because this is Cress when she is younger and how she came to be on her satellite, and I think that is it was so sad because she's being taken to this satellite and just being left alone. Sybil just leaves her there alone, and it was so sad because, oh my god, I was like heartbroken reading this because she's like, well, why am I here all by myself, or, you know, what about food, or blah 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 blah. And then Sybil leaves and Cinder just starts crying on her bed, and I'm just heartbroken reading this. We come to know that, you know, this is a time where she records her 7-year-old voice, and that she talks to in the main series in Cress, and oh, my little heart just broke with this story. The sixth short story is The Princess and Her Guard, and I liked this story despite these two characters not being my favorite. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Winter and Jason. They're not my favorite, but I still did enjoy this story, even though it was the longest out of all of them. I liked seeing what drew Winter to not using her powers. And that was a really, really nice way that it was written into her past. And we're looking at all these different aspects that brought her to not wanting to use her powers. And I thought that was a really, really cool way it was written. The seventh short story is The Little Android. And I had hopes. I had very, very high hopes for this short story. The Little Android is a take on The Little Mermaid, which Little Mermaid is my favorite princess story ever. And I had such high hopes for this story, and I don't want to say it, but I really hated this short story, and I feel bad saying that, but the entire time I'm reading this story, I thought it was Iko, and then I find out on like the last 3 pages that it was never Iko in the first place, because this android goes to visit Cinder, and Cinder's like, you remind me of my friend Iko. I was like, wait, what? This isn't Iko? And I'm so confused this entire time. And then in the end, she like switches bodies or something with another android, or who's a cyborg, who's in love with this one guy, and it's just all sorts of confusing, and I don't understand it. So if somebody can explain how that ended to me in the comments, that would be helpful, because I am so confused by this story. The 8th short story is called The Mechanic, and This, we've actually read it before because it's the same scene in Cinder, just from another character's perspective. And can you guess who that is? Kai! It is Kai, my love, Prince Kai. This story is told in the perspective of him, and we are seeing his first thoughts of Cinder, and it's so amazing. I love it. I love anything that has to do with Kai. Freaking love it. And finally, the 9th story, which is considered the epilogue to Winter, is called Something Old, Something New. And by the title of this book, and by the fact that they announced way before this came out that it was the wedding of the century, I was really banking on Kai and Cinder getting married. They didn't get married. Elizabeth from Elizabeth Book Babble thought it could be Winter and Jason because they said it's the wedding of the century. Can you guess who it was? It was Scarlet and Wolf. And while they're not my favorite characters, this was such a cute story because Scarlet, this very independent person who has this rock hard exterior, is getting married. She got married. And it was such a cute story. Like, everybody was coming here. It's like the gang's all here. It's coming back together to celebrate this wedding, and it was so cute and so adorable, and oh my god, it was so cute. But my favorite part out of this entire story was the ending when freaking Kai proposed to Cinder. Oh my god, he proposed to Cinder and she said yes. Oh my god, that was my favorite part of this entire series. This entire book was my favorite. That was my favorite part out of all of it, because now my babies are getting married, and I really, really hope, I'm begging Marissa Meyer to write the wedding. Write a short story so we can see this wedding, because if I don't get to read that, I will probably cry, and that is not okay. It's not okay. So guys, thank you so much for watching this book talk. If you'd like to see our live show for this book, I will link it down below. If you would like to take a behind the scenes look at my life as well as some of the other things I love, please go check out my second channel, Chloessence. It is linked down below. Also, if you like what you see here, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!